I want to welcome everyone to the November 19th, 2020 Zoning Hearing Officer meeting. I'm Lisa Grote, and I'm the Zoning Hearing Officer for San Mateo County. And this morning, before we get started, before we get started with the items, we are going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm going to ask Deb Robinson to lead us in the pledge. And I think you may just hear her voice, but please join us if you're able to. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Deb. This morning, again, before we get into the actual items on the agenda, we do have an opportunity for oral communications, and I'm going to ask Janeth Lujan to read to us the instructions on how to participate in oral communications, if you would like to participate in that.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. For those attending the meeting on the Zoom video conference, we will use the raise your hand feature in order to organize any public comments. During the general public comment period, and for those items on the regular agenda, I will ask those members of the public who wish to comment to click the raise hand feature to raise your hand and to speak on that agenda item. For those joining by phone, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. Please note that members of the public must wait for my prompt in connection with each agenda item before using the raised hand function. For example, you cannot raise your hand at the beginning of the meeting for an agenda item that is later in the meeting. When you hear your name called, I will prompt you to unmute your account and inform you that you may begin speaking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Janeth. Now we can go into oral communications, and this is an opportunity if someone would like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda. Is there anyone, Janeth, that you see who would like to speak under oral communications?
There are no hands raised right now,
Okay, great, thank you. Then the first item is on the consent calendar, and what that means is I'm just going to read the title very briefly into the public record. If someone wants to discuss item 1, we can remove it from the consent calendar and have a discussion about it. But should there be no one who wants to do that or discuss it, it will be approved automatically with the findings and the conditions that are listed in the staff report. So let me just start by reading. The owner is the Peninsula Corridor Joint Power Board. The applicant is Crown Castle GT Company, LLC. The file number is PLN 2010-00019. The location is in front of 200 Santa Helena Avenue, San Francisco International Airport area. One of the APNs is 093-350-010. Is there anyone who would like to remove this item from the consent calendar to discuss it? Janeth, do you see anyone?
I do not at this moment, no.
Okay, then we're going to go ahead and approve that item, again, in accordance with the findings and conditions in the staff report. So thank you very much for that. Then on the regular agenda, it is our second item, and this will have Lawrence Trong will begin with a brief overview and staff recommendation. Then we will give the applicant and the applicant's representative a chance to speak, and then we'll take public comment on this one. But let me first start by reading the brief description. It's owner Bo Galen Berry, applicant Aaron Lim, file number PLN 2019-00480. The location is 123 Creek Trail in North Skyline, and the APN is 067-168-300. And Lawrence, would you like to begin with a staff report?
Thank you, Lisa. Let me share my screen here.
Okay.
So this is item number 2 on today's agenda. Property owner is Bo Galen Berry, project applicant Aaron Lim, file number PLN 2019-00480. Location 123 Creek Trail in the North Skyline area, APN 067-168-300. The proposed project is seeking a non-conforming use permit and architectural review exemption pursuant to section 6133.3B2 and 6137 of the County of San Mateo zoning regulations and Streets and Highways Code, sections 261, to enlarge a non-conforming single-family residence with a 518 square foot second-story addition that continues a 9-inch left side yard setback where 10 feet is required, and waive the required 2 covered parking spaces on a legal non-conforming 7,500 square foot parcel located at 123 Creek Trail in the unincorporated North Skyline area, Mateo County. The project also
Lawrence, you just froze. I can't hear.
can you hear me?
You're cutting in and out.
Do you see my screen?
I do. I see your screen and I can hear you now. Thanks.
Okay. This is the location map. The project site is located off Creek Trail, a narrow road in the North Skyline area. The property is located within the Skyline Scenic Corridor, and the project can be seen here. And the Skyline Boulevard is here. And it's approximately 300 feet to the west of Skyline Boulevard. This is I believe, a land surveyor's map. If you can see here, it indicates the 9-inch left side yard setback where 10 feet is required. Can you still hear me, Lisa?
I can. Thanks. Yeah.
This is a picture of essentially the front of the property off of a creek trail. There are 2 existing legal single-family residences on the property. The residence proposed for remodel and addition was built in 1924, and the other residence was built in 1949. And this is the other residence. This is the north or front elevation of the residence proposed for remodel and addition. This is the west elevation. And this is the rear elevation from the south. On your screen now is the existing site plan and the proposed site plan. Essentially, you can see there's no change to lot coverage. There is 2 redwood trees in the left side yard here that are proposed for removal to accommodate the proposed addition. There is existing on-site septic system located here. And there is no change to the other existing residence here. Here you see the existing first floor plan that's proposed for remodel. And to the right here in the middle, you see the first floor plan of the proposed. The difference here is, as you can see here, there's a full bath here in the existing floor plan. It's now just a half bath and there's a closet. And the bedroom 2 is now an office. The kitchen and living area remains the same. And here you see the staircase going up to the 2nd floor. And it's a full bedroom with bath and walk-in closet. This is the existing north front elevation and the proposed. This is the existing south or rear elevation and proposed. This is the existing west and proposed west elevation. As you can see, the proposed addition is set back to conform with the zoning standards for this property. And this is the east elevation. In conformance with the general plan, the project conforms with policy 4.22 scenic corridors The project is within Skyline Scenic Corridor, but property is located approximately 300 feet to the west of Skyline Boulevard, with mature trees, developed parcels, and varied topography, screening the project parcel from Skyline Boulevard. The project conforms with policy 4.52 of the general plan. The project involves colors and materials that would be the same as or similar to what is existing, like stained wood shingle siding. The project would replace existing wood doors and windows with new painted aluminum clad wood doors and windows with wood trim. The color of the windows and trim would be either dark midnight bronze or dark Hartford green. The base of the house would be gray stone. Roofing would be gray asphalt, composition shingle roof. The proposed colors and materials blend with the surrounding natural rural environment. The project also conforms with policy 4.58. The project involves removal of 2 redwood trees, 24-inch and 45-inch in DBH, in the left side yard to accommodate the proposed addition. An arborist report prepared by Bay Arborist dated January 2nd, 2020, describes the trees are right next to the existing house and will likely damage the foundation and structure of the house as it continued to grow. In addition, the county arborist conducted a site visit on March 2nd, 2020, and concurred with the proposed removal of the 2 trees. This is a development standards table. The non-conforming use permit is acquired due to the 2nd-story addition that continues a 9-inch left side yard setback where 10 feet is required. 2 covered parking spaces are required in association with the major remodel and addition, as currently none exist. Due to the existing development and limited spaces available at the property, the applicant is seeking a waiver of the 2 covered parking spaces because it would not be possible to provide 2 covered off-street parking spaces that would not encroach upon the front half of the lot per section 6411B in chapter 22 of the San Mateo County zoning regulations. In terms of regulations conformance, non-conforming setbacks, as I've already mentioned, a non-conforming left side yard setback is 9 inches to accommodate a 2nd story, which will match the non-conforming 1st floor left side yard setback where 10 feet is required. In terms of non-conforming off-street parking, existing residence is non-conforming for on-site covered parking as property currently has no covered parking where 2 spaces are required per section 6119 of the zoning regulations. And the applicant has demonstrated that it would not be possible to provide 2 covered parking spaces without needing further exceptions for lot coverage or setbacks. Property has ample on-site parking provided by existing paved driveway. A non-conforming parcel, an existing non-conforming residence on an improved non-conforming size parcel where proposed enlargements will not conform with the R1 S10 development standards, thus requiring a non-conforming use permit. The minimum required parcel size in S10 combining district is 20,000 square feet, where existing legal developed parcel size is only 7,500 square feet in size. Another existing residence is located on the property, but no changes are proposed. The project is categorically exempt from California Environmental Quality Act guidelines pursuant to section 15301, class 1, for the residential addition of less than 10,000 square feet in an area where all necessary public services and facilities are available to allow for maximum development permissible in the general plan. Although the property is located in Skyline Scenic Corridor, it is not visible from Skyline Boulevard. For the non-conforming use permit, the proposed project is proportioned to size of parcel on which it is being built, as the second floor addition is approximately half the size of the 1st floor and positioned furthest away from the roadway. The project minimizes the footprint of development on substandard size 7,500 square foot parcel by seeking a waiver for covered parking and no change in lot coverage. All opportunities to acquire additional contiguous land in order to achieve conformity with the zoning regulations currently in effect have been investigated and proven to be infeasible, as parcel is surrounded by similarly developed substandard sized parcels under separate private ownership which do not have excess land to offer and are not available for purchase. The proposed project is as nearly in conformance with zoning regulations currently in effect as is reasonably possible, since the project does not introduce any new nonconformities beyond those already in existence. The use permit approval does not constitute a granting of special privileges, as zoning regulations nonconformities chapter provides some exception process for similar parcels under same conditions. The project will not result in significant adverse impact to coastal resources or be detrimental to public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in neighborhood as project site is not located in coastal zone and proposed second floor has been recessed on front to comply with minimum 20-foot front yard setbacks of the S10 development standards. The project involves the removal of 2 redwood trees, 24-inch and 45-inch in DBH in the left side yard to accommodate proposed addition, but second floor addition designed with no windows along the left side wall and limits upper floor side wall to less than 22 feet to minimize impacts to nearest neighboring property. Given constraints of existing development on property, proposal for 2 uncovered parking spaces in driveway is as nearly in conformance with covered parking requirements as reasonably possible. The proposed design and finished materials are compatible with surrounding residential development in the neighborhood. For the architectural review exemption, the project should be exempt from requirement for an architectural review. A field inspection of property by planning staff confirmed that proposed project is over 300 feet away from Skyline Boulevard and screened with mature trees, developed parcels, and varied topography, and therefore is not visible from Skyline Boulevard. Our staff's recommendation is that the zoning hearing officer approve the non-conforming use permit and architectural review exemption PLN 2019-00480 by making the required findings and adopting the conditions of approval. Before I conclude, we did receive 1 comment letter via email from a neighbor at 134 Ridge Road yesterday on November 18th. And may I read the comment now, Lisa?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks.
The comment reads, and the applicant was, I emailed the applicant Aaron Lynn this morning to give him a heads up. My concern regarding this proposed expansion is the impact upon the septic system. In years past, the property owner, Bo Berry, has diverted gray water from one or both of the residences onto our property's backyard. And for some time, I believe the backyard of the property at 135 Creek Trail as well. I am unable to determine whether that is still occurring because of recent rains and the fact that diversion pipe may now be obscured below debris, but based on observation, I believe it occurred this past summer. I do not know if the gray water diversion is occurring from one or both residences, nor do I know whether each residence has a separate septic system. But if the 2 residences share any part of a septic system, then it should be inspected and analyzed to determine that it is capable of handling any increased capacity allowed by the proposed second-story addition at 123 Creek Trail, and that any gray water releases conform to current gray water management codes. Environmental health has, that was the end of the comment. So environmental health has reviewed and conditionally approved this project with the following conditions. At the building stage, details of the on-site wastewater treatment system, otherwise known as OWTS, example, septic tank diversion valve, trench length, and reserve trench or trenches will need to be delineated onto the site plan, grading, drainage plan, etc. The OWTS may need to be located by an OWTS professional and field verified by environmental health. The second condition is a septic tank will need to be pumped, evaluated, and dispersal field water tested by a San Mateo County certified pumper. A report shall be provided to environmental health for review. So staff does not have any knowledge of the gray water system on the property, and the applicant is present, I see, and may be able to describe any such system on the property or respond to the comment.
Okay. And that then concludes your comments, Lawrence?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much for the report. Would the applicant or the applicant's representative like to make any comments at this point? Okay, Mr. Berry, I think. Janeth, could you unmute Mr. Berry, or let me see.
Hi.
you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, we all live on a hill, so gravity makes water go downhill. I washed my truck this summer, and I also power wash a deck. So gray water goes out my drain and down the hill. Thousands upon thousands of gallons come from the neighbor above me and flood my garage and clog my drains every year. I mean, I don't complain against him. So it's just gravity and nature, and it's not much, well, there's not much any of us can do about it. And this lady that's complaining is below me, And so
Okay.
everything, anything septic related goes in the tank.
Okay. But
Laundry, everything else, it goes in the tank. There's
okay.
nothing
So,
off the corner except water from my washing my truck or power washing my deck or.
okay. Okay. So your septic system, is it a shared septic system on the site?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And so then you understand, and Lawrence, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I read the conditions is that environmental health is going to ask for a lot more detail when it comes to the actual building permit stage, where Mr. Barry, you're going to have to put on the site plan where any expansion trenches are, and you're going to have to do some testing to make sure the septic system can support another bathroom and whatever is existing on the site
Yeah,
too.
that's fine. I mean, everything is visible. I mean, and we'll dig up the tank and expose it and have it pumped, and you guys can inspect that it's a concrete tank,
Okay.
and
Okay.
it has the capacity to serve both the units. And I'm
Okay.
by myself back here, and
Okay.
I do laundry maybe once a week, so not much water going in there.
Okay. So Lawrence, is my understanding of those conditions correct, that environmental health, it wouldn't actually be the planning and building department, but it's going to be environmental health that is going to require the septic system to meet all current standards with some possibility of testing. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I believe, Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you've worked with Ed Diaz from Environmental Health about this, and he's actually asked you to revise your project to possibly meet the septic requirements. Is that correct, Aaron? I think you're still on mute. If you can,
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
just
yeah.
and to add to that, we aren't adding any additional bedrooms to the property, and so we aren't increasing the load on the septic system. So I think that when I worked with Ed, that was part of his requirements in order to not trigger a complete septic system overhaul.
Okay, because one of the existing bedrooms that's now on the ground floor becomes an office.
That's correct.
Okay, and then so it's 2 bedrooms now and 2 bedrooms after the addition.
Exactly.
Okay, now regarding the bathroom, additional bathroom capacity, did Ed say anything about that? Ed being the staff person from environmental health.
Yeah, as far as I understand, Ed was really only concerned with the number of bedrooms.
Okay.
Based on my understanding, the load on the septic system is based on the number of bedrooms as opposed to the number of bathrooms,
Okay.
because of the number of people
Yeah.
living in the space. So
Okay, and Lawrence, that's your understanding as well?
Yes, that's correct. And those requirements are going to be met at the building stage as well, per the conditions of approval for this planning permit.
Okay. Okay, and so Mr. Barry, as far as your understanding of what's on the site, there is no gray water system on the site that is intentionally sending water onto other people's property?
No.
Okay. Okay, because the county does have regulations that prohibit drainage and water going from one person's property onto another. That's actually not supposed to happen. So,
Oh, I'm not sure we can change gravity. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know how that can be avoided, because tons of water comes from my neighbor above me onto my property and then goes
But nothing is,
through my drains and then goes down to people below me. And there's no way to divert the water. I mean, my next door neighbor has thousands of gallons going below his house. And
so nothing though, and Lawrence, again, correct me if I'm wrong here, nothing about the proposed design of the addition contributes to that. If something this does not make the existing situation
This
worse.
doesn't change anything.
No, not, I do not believe so, no.
Okay, okay. Can you tell me a little bit then about, before we get into the public comment, because there may be some additional public comment, but can you tell me a little bit about those trees that I believe are on the west side of the addition or of the existing structure? Are
Mhm.
they on the applicant's property or are they on the neighbor's property?
They are on the neighbor's property, and I believe we have a consent letter uploaded to our system from the neighbor, giving consent to Mr. Barry to remove those trees.
Okay, because that would be necessary, because you can't go onto somebody else's property and make changes, whether it's removing trees or anything else. You can't make changes to a neighbor's property unless they give you specific approval. So you've received that, Lawrence?
Yes, we've received that.
Okay, okay. And then a little bit more along those lines, what is happening on the adjacent property there? Is there, and I'm sure you've looked at this, but is there minimal to no impact of this addition on the neighbor's property?
No, we did not see any potential impact. We as in myself and the county arborist went out to inspect the tree and the property just to take a look around. And no, the addition would not invade or have any impact in terms of privacy to the neighbor.
Okay, okay, great. That was one of my concerns, is if there is any immediate impact on that neighboring site, but it doesn't sound like there is. Would anyone else like to comment on that, either the property owner or the applicant? Property owner's, sorry, representative?
Oh, I'd also like to add, Lisa, that I mentioned in the presentation that there aren't any windows on the left side as
Yeah.
well. So
Okay, okay, perfect.
Well, the reason the tree became an issue at all is because it's pushed over one of my fence posts, and it is also within inches of uprooting my deck. So it is humongous. It is going to cause problems in the future.
Okay. But it sounds like you're working with your neighbor and
Yeah, the
that,
neighbor has allowed me to remove it, definitely.
okay, 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 great. Is there anyone then in the public, members of the public, who would like to speak to this item?
So Lisa, can I just really quickly just go over the rules really fast?
Yes, absolutely.
So we're opening public comment for item number 2. If your hand is raised, your name will be called. I will lower your hand in order for you to speak. And if you're calling by phone, please press *9. Let's see. So right now, I don't see any hands raised for this item. So it looks like no one.
Okay, okay, great. Well, I think our conversation just answered my questions, because your neighbor at 134, as Lawrence mentioned, 134 Ridge Road did write about concerns about gray water systems and runoff. But again, you understand the conditions about the septic system and needing to explore that with environmental health and really provide more detail at the time of building permit stage, and verifying that in fact the system can accommodate the addition, and that you don't have a gray water system on your site, so you're not intentionally sending water onto any of your neighbor's property. There may be some natural flow that occurs. So with that, unless there is something that anyone else would like to add, Lawrence or the applicant or the applicant's representative?
I'm good, Lisa.
Okay. Okay. With that, then I think I will close the public hearing, and I am going to issue an approval in accordance with the findings and conditions in the staff report. And I did want just one last question of the property owner. You had a chance to read through all those conditions and you understand them?
Yes, I did. Yes,
Okay, great, great. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and issue that approval. And there is a 10-day appeal period. So if anyone does want to appeal this decision, that needs to be in writing, submitted to the Planning and Building Department by December 7th of 2020. and there is an appeal fee of $616.35. So once that appeal period has run, if no one appeals, then you can start to move into your next phase, and Lawrence can explain to you what that is in terms of preparing your building permit plans and applying for a building permit. So, okay, as long as there are no other questions, I want to thank you. Thank you, Lawrence, and thank you to the applicant and the applicant's representative. Thanks. Okay. With that, then we're going to move into the third item on the agenda, which are owners Karen Ann Kabaluk and Charles Ashton Haskins. The applicant is Charles Ashton Haskins. The file number is PLN 2020-00096. The location is 3407 Alameda de las Pulgas in West Menlo Park. And the APN is 074-063-320. And Lawrence Strong has been the project planner on this one as well. So Lawrence, if you'd like to start with a staff report and overview of recommendations. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Lisa. Hold on one second here. My screen again. Can everyone see my screen?
I can, yes, thanks.
Sorry, hold on one second here.
Okay.
Okay, this is item number 3 on today's agenda. Property owner Karen and Charles Ashton Haskins. Project applicant is Charles Haskins. File number PLN 2020-00096. Location is 3407 Alameda de las Pulgas in West Menlo Park. APN 074-063-320. This project requires a use permit to allow construction of a detached 768 square foot garage and workshop with a 994 square foot 2-story ADU on a 6,440 square foot parcel located at 3407 Alameda de las Pulgas in West Menlo Park. The use permit is required to exceed the maximum allowable floor area of 800 square feet for an ADU on the property, with a 3-foot left side yard setback where 5 feet is required and a 4-foot rear yard setback where 10 feet is required. The use permit would also allow a second floor window along the west elevation of the ADU with a lower window sill of approximately 4 feet 9 inches or 7 feet from the nearest interior floor is required. No trees are proposed for removal as part of this proposed project. This application was deemed complete on October 7th, 2020, prior to the effective date of the recent ADU ordinance amendment that went into effect on October 15th, 2020. Therefore, the project is being reviewed for zoning compliance under the former ADU standards in effect prior to October 15th, 2020, which are included as attachment D in the staff report. Here you see a location map of the property located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Sterling Avenue and Alameda de las Pulgas. The surrounding area consists of existing 1- and 2-story single-family residences. Here is a site plan of the property. There is an existing 1,355 square foot, 1-story single-family residence and a non-conforming 425 square foot detached 2-car garage on the property. If I could zoom in here. So as I zoom in, if you can see the 3-foot left side yard setback here, and this over here is Sterling Avenue, and the 4-foot rear yard setback here, and the approximately 8-foot right yard setback. And the proposed detached garage, workshop, and ADU is set back approximately 8 feet from the existing residence. Sorry, I just had a blackout here at my house. Do you guys still see my screen?
Oh my gosh, wow, yeah, yes, I can still see it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is the first floor plan. The garage, and then the workshop, and the first floor of the ADU. See the living area, the kitchen, and the stairway up to the second floor of the ADU. This is the second floor of the ADU, and this side is the side facing Sterling. And this is the 2 bedrooms, the family room and the bath, and the stairway coming up. This is the west elevation, side facing Sterling Avenue. The proposed height is 23 feet, where 26 feet is allowed. Pursuant to section 6429.9 of the ADU regulations, ADUs that do not meet the setback requirements that would apply to a primary residence in the same district shall only be allowed clear story windows located above 10 feet on the ADU along those applicable sides, provided the clear story windows have a lower sill height of no less than 7 feet from the nearest interior floor of the ADU, and a total window height no greater than 24 inches. The proposed ADU does not meet the minimum 10-foot left street side setback required for the primary residence in the R1 S72 zoning district. The upper story of the ADU along this left side elevation includes a window with a lower sill height of 4 feet and 9 inches from the nearest interior second floor, where a lower sill height of 7 feet is required. And that window is this right here.
Okay.
This is the south elevation, the side facing the existing residence, which is, as I mentioned, approximately 8 feet setback from the existing residence. This is the north elevation or the rear elevation, and this is set back 4 feet from the rear yard setback. This is the right side yard, approximately 8 feet right side yard setback. And this, I believe, is the entrance to the ADU, or one of the entrances. In conformance with the general plan, the proposed project meets policy 4.36 and policy 8.15. These 2 policies seek to maintain and improve upon the appearance and visual character of development in urban areas, ensure that proposed development contributes to the orderly and harmonious nature of locality, and protect and enhance the character of existing single-family areas. While there is no distinct design theme for this area of West Menlo Park, surrounding development includes 1- and 2-story residences with a mix of stucco and wood siding, hip and gable style roofs, and 2-car garages. This is the ADU development standards. Pursuant to state law in effect January 1st, 2020, the maximum allowable size of an ADU on the subject property is 800 square feet. The project proposes a 994 square foot 2-story accessory dwelling unit, which triggers the need for a use permit. And existing non-conforming garage maintains a 0 left side yard setback and will be replaced with a new garage workshop with ADU that proposes a 3-foot left side yard setback where 5 feet is required, and a rear yard setback of 4 feet where 10 feet is required, per zoning section 6429.3C of the zoning regulations. As mentioned previously, the upper story of the ADU along the left side elevation includes the window with a lower sill height of 4 feet 9 inches from the nearest interior second floor, where a lower sill height of 7 feet is required. The project does conform with maximum lot coverage, building floor area, and building height allowed. The project is categorically exempt from the CEQA guidelines pursuant to section 15301, class 1, for the residential addition of less than 10,000 square feet of floor area on a site in an urbanized area zoned for residential use where all necessary public services and facilities are available, and the surrounding area is not environmentally sensitive. The project will not result in a significant adverse impact to coastal resources or be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in said neighborhood, as the project site is not located in the coastal zone and is designed to minimize impacts onto
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. Is the applicant, I see the applicant is present. Would you like to add anything to the comments?
Hi.
Hi.
No, not really. I mean, I looked over the conditions of approval, and we were kind of waiting to do the actual structural part of the foundation till after we got through this zone hearing, in order to work with the arborist on the details of the oak tree, because that's kind of the biggest player in this whole project is the valley oak, and it's been there a long time. We want to try and, preserve it and keep it. So we're trying to do everything we can to, within reason, financially, to try and work with an arborist and the engineer to create a foundation where it's going to not impact the tree as much as possible, because we'd like to not remove it. So, but yeah, everything else, I mean, that's kind of, and it's not a huge issue, but it's a little bit, it's a little more work financially and footwork to work around that. So.
Okay, thanks. Thanks. Are there any members of the public, Janet, if you wanted to check to see if there are members of the public who'd like to speak, and let them know again how they can do that?
Sure, of course, no problem.
Thanks.
So we're now opening public comment for item number 3 now. And if your hand is raised, your name will be called for this item. I will lower your hand after you speak. Those joining by telephone can press *9 to raise your hand. Seeing none, I think we're good to go on.
Okay, great. Thank you, Janet.
Thank you.
Lawrence, a couple of questions that I had about the about page 4, the chart that you have on the ADU development standards on page 4 of the staff report, and it says maximum ADU square footage 800 square feet. Now, those are the new square footage maximums as of January of 2020, right? And this, I think you had said earlier, was being reviewed per the older standards because it was deemed complete prior to those new standards becoming effective.
Sorry, Lisa, my internet just cut out, but I caught the tail end of what you said. And I think you're asking if the project is based on the old ADU standards, is that correct?
Right, because in the chart that you have included on page 4 of the staff report, it says maximum ADU square footage 800 square feet, which confused me a little bit because I think that's the new standard rather than the old standard.
Also, Lawrence, if you want to turn off your video and then just use your audio, it might help you with the connection. I know Steve does that every once in a while, so if you want to try that, it might help.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try that again if it cuts out.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So was my question clear? It looks like in the chart you're using one of the new standards for maximum ADU square footage, when in fact it should be consistently using the older standards.
I see. Let me pull that up.
Yeah, it's on page 4 of the staff report. I don't know that it would at all change the recommendation, but I just wanted to make sure that the analysis was consistent.
Okay, yeah, understood. So the 800 square foot is actually from the as I mentioned, the new state law as of January 1st, 2020.
Yep.
So the same see here.
So even though you're using the older county standards, that new state law, are you saying supersedes the old standards in that one respect? Maybe not in all respects, but that one respect?
Correct, because although we didn't adopt that until our ADU or update our ADU standards until October 15th,
Right.
the state's law supersedes whatever we have adopted. And the state law is 800 square feet.
Okay. Okay. So in some aspects, the state law superseded the older county requirements. And in those cases, in those instances, you used the new state standard. And in the other instances or factors of the application, you used the older county standards because the new ones hadn't yet come into effect,
Correct.
if that makes sense. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. That was, I think my only other question, it had to do with the tree, the oak tree. Now, there are conditions in here to do everything possible, as Mr. Haskins was mentioning, to save that oak tree, right? Tree protection plan, I think it's condition number 9. Again, part of the building permit submittal, that a tree protection plan will be implemented and submitted.
Correct. And the county arborist did take a look at the tree, and
Okay.
he is fine with it proceeding to the building stage and reviewing it from there if necessary.
Okay, okay. And then, as with the last item, you looked, I'm sure, at any potential impacts on that. In this case, the rear, I think it's the rear setback, and any potential impacts on that immediate neighbor to the rear.
Yeah, I believe the side facing the rear, there's only a bathroom, if I'm not mistaken, facing that way, and the stairway, and the bedrooms are facing Sterling Avenue, and the other bedroom is facing existing residents. And I believe Mr. Haskins has talked to his neighbor in the rear, and they are fine with his proposal. And Mr. Haskins can chime in if possible about that, if that ever occurred. That's my recollection.
Okay, great. Now, Mr. Haskins, do you have any additions to that?
Yeah, so the owner that had lived there for quite a while, she actually, she's elderly and she has since sold. And the property is actually being developed, which I believe Lawrence is the planner on that one as well. I'm not totally sure, but anyways, so yeah, I mean, there's no impact. There is that one bathroom on that side. All the other, there's some lower windows, but nothing's facing that side that would, impede or look over on their side. So
Okay, okay. Okay. Okay, great.
yeah, and I haven't, I mean, anybody else I've chatted with about it, no one's had any issues, so.
Okay, okay. I'm just, I'm just looking at the elevations here. Okay. Would that be, Lawrence, correct me if I'm wrong here, is that the west elevation, the back?
No, the west elevation, I believe, is
Is the
the
front?
sorry, hold on.
I think it's kind of.
The west elevation is the side facing Sterling Avenue, and
Okay.
the north elevation is the rear.
Okay. Okay, yeah, all right. Okay, well, I think then And Mr. Haskins, you mentioned you did get a chance to read through the conditions and you understand them, don't have any questions about them?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, the only thing, like I said, is working through the tree with an arborist. The initial root inspection and overall condition of the tree, the first report from an arborist, was obviously good. And then, so working through this construction, my only question is if we eventually run into an issue with this tree, as far as somebody recommending that it be removed, or, we don't work through anything with the foundation in regards to preserving it, is that just going to be an application for tree removal, or is this going to affect this use permit approval?
That
Or
would be.
would that determine just on the building side at that point?
Yeah, that you would not have to return to this kind of a hearing for that. That would be considered a minor amendment that could be considered by both Lawrence as the project planner and the department director, who is Steve Monowitz. And that would, I think, fall under condition number 1 that says minor revisions or modifications, if they're consistent, can be considered at the staff level. But what you would really need to be doing, though, is showing them that there isn't a way to preserve that tree, because right now, it's a condition of approval that really does say everything possible should be done to preserve the tree. So you'd be talking with them about circumstances that may have changed, or the health of the tree that was more closely analyzed, that kind of thing. So you'd really be working with them to show that the tree couldn't be saved.
All right.
May I also add, condition number 7 also states this permit does not allow for the removal of any trees. Removal of any tree with a diameter equal to or greater than 12 inches as measured 4.5 feet above the ground shall require a separate tree removal permit.
Yeah, thanks, Lawrence. So that does mean you'd be applying for a tree removal permit with that documentation that shows it can't be saved.
Right. Okay.
Okay, great. Well, with that, since there are no public comments, I'll go ahead and maybe Janet, should we check one more time to make sure there's no public comment? I'm not seeing anyone with their hand up.
Correct. There aren't any hands raised for this item.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and we'll issue a written approval in accordance with the findings and conditions in the staff report. And again, there is an appeal, 10-day appeal period, which expires on December 7th of 2020. And the appeal fee is $616.35 should anyone choose to appeal. So with that, I think we are done with this item as well as with the overall meeting in general. So thank you, Mr. Haskins, for your time. And thank you, Lawrence, for yours, and both Deb and Janet as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate
All
it.
righty. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.